Real-world computer programming for kids. Step 26, Steps on Stepping and Breakpoint Bonanza, Part 2. We will get back to stepping through the code right quick, but first, a word from me. From this installment of the newsletter, or Step in Our Journey, I am slightly altering its name. I am prepending Real World to the title so that it is now Real World Computer Programming for Kids. The reason? That is the way that this journey differs perhaps from a lot of programming books and articles and lessons. Rather than providing a sterilized, photoshopped, after-the-fact, pristine image of the coding process, we are working through it together with all the blemishes that are normally encountered in actual programming experience. Finding blemishes in the code, debugging, lots of refactoring, etc. It's not always easy, but we're in this together. Now back to our normal programming. No pun intended. After another thorough desk check, reading the code away from the computer in this case, after printing it out, I made some more changes. To wit, in an effort to simplify the code, I did away with the get file names method altogether. After all, rather than call it, I could just directly do the same thing the method was doing on the line where I called that method. Note, I'm not going to show all of the code changes because a lot of them were relatively minor or stylistic in nature, but I will provide all the code again once everything is working just as it should be. I will show this change though because it is non-trivial. Here is the before picture of the code and the checked changed event in its previous incarnation is shown, and here's the after picture. And this is what it is now, with some code added. Now I will run it again to see what, if any, problems arise. If they do, we will continue with stepping through the code to track down the problem. In fact, I'm sure there will still be at least one issue with the code. Here goes something, not nothing, as is popularly held to be what it is that is going. Fortunately for us, since we want to demonstrate some more stepping through the code, there are still plenty of problems with the code. Rather than list them all, I found a handful already. Let's just attack or tackle them one at a time. So, the first one is, after selecting a file from the combo box, the question in of in label question in of in, still says just that, but it should be question 1 of 10, since the file I selected has 10 questions in it. The thing to do then is to see where an assignment is made to label question in of in and figure out why it isn't made right after the file is selected. I searched the code from the top for label question in of in. The first hit is where the original design time value of its text is assigned in the initialize form method. Notice in the comment in that code that's shown above that this is called from the populate list method. So this is called after a file is selected. It should not be setting the label to that original generic value, but rather to what we are expecting to see. So this is probably where the problem is. I changed the line of code shown above to, and then it shows the changed, updated line of code. It still doesn't work. What's happening? Is that comment misleading us? Let's find out for sure just where this method is called from. The only other place in the code that is setting the value of label question in of in is from the click event handler of the next button, and I didn't click it yet, so that's pretty much out of consideration as the culprit of this bug that we are hunting. And then you'll see a picture of Elmer Fudd hunting, getting ready to hunt. Going to the code that references or calls the initialize form method, the comment was not lying. The populate list method does call it, but not always. Check it out. And then that code is shown. It's only called on subsequent times a file is selected, not the first time. So I changed the code like so, and then it displays in the newsletter the updated code. Now the populate list method calls the initialize form method whether it's the first time or the gazillionth time. I tried it again. What do you think happened? It worked. Sort of. It now says 1 of 0 instead of 0 of 0. So why does it not realize that there are 10 questions instead of 0? Now the question is, where is the number of questions variable assigned the correct number? Eureka! Aha! Voila! And all that jazz. It is getting assigned after we call initialize form, as you can see here. And in the code that is displayed in the newsletter, the key lines are italicized to make them stand out. So I moved the call to initialize form below the assignment to number of questions. And then it shows that code explaining or displaying exactly what I'm talking about. And run it again. This time, it works. Something we can deduce from this is that timing is everything. This applies in life too. For example, you shouldn't sleep while you're eating, and you shouldn't eat while you're sleeping. Okay, on to the next bug, opportunity, or challenge at least. When I select the correct answer on question 1 and then select the next button, among other things, the percentage label is updated. But it says 0%, 0 of 1. It should say 100%, 1 of 1. Why is it not accepting my correct answer as being correct? Let's find out. Where is label percentage being assigned a value? Logically enough, it is in the update percentage label method, in the last line of code below. And it shows a block of code, and the last line is where that text value of the label is being assigned to. So I put a breakpoint on the first real line of code in that method. The declaration and assignment of 0.0 to the percentage correct variable isn't steppable, because the preprocessor compiles that prior to this point. You don't need to think about preprocessors any more than pterodactyls, though. Not at present, anyway. And it shows a picture of a pterodactyl saying something. Back to ultra super serious business. We hit the breakpoint, and when we get to the call to answer is correct F11 into that, we step into it rather than stepping over it. Can you see what the problem is? And then there's a screenshot of what's happening at that point when the breakpoint is reached, the value of the indexer variable. The indexer, multiple choice class index, is on 1, as shown by the rectangled portion of that screenshot, whereas it should be 0, since this is the first question, and we start counting at 0. No wonder it said I chose the wrong answer. It was comparing my answer to the first question to the answer for the second question. That's enough for today, though. We will take up with that sticky wicket in the next scintillating and mind-boggling episode of this journey, or step in this journey. And there's a asterisk or a star after the phrase sticky wicket, which says, sticky wicket is British ease, a form of English, for a hard problem, in case you didn't know. It comes from their national sport of cricket, where villages vie against one another to see how many crickets they can drive into a field, so that they can capture them to feed to their bearded dragons. Pretty much all British people have at least one bearded dragon, and then it shows a picture of just that. a bearded dragon. Until then,